Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound. We have our weekly Pocket Change Market Report, the first one for the month of March. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a pretty deep lineup of coins that people have sold here in the last, I would say, 24 hours. Now, a lot of these finds were either discovered coin roll hunting or going through just mounds of change. You could do it either or. But also, importantly, coin shops and coin shows. There's a lot of these that you could cherry pick today. And oftentimes, coin dealers won't really put too much importance on what they call minor errors and varieties. However, these coins have a pretty tremendous secondary market. It would be a good way to either add something prominent to your collection or find something that you could flip and resell. I know a number of people that make this kind of like a part-time job, few people making it a full-time job, and they're doing really well. And it's a lot of fun. So I would highly encourage you guys to do just that. And there is a lot to look for. As you guys know, 2023 coinage is kind of like the hot topic right now because these coins have dropped. They've been out in circulation for over a month now, and people are finding some pretty good stuff. We have a few of those pieces to talk about here today. Another thing to point out, we do not talk about graded coins whatsoever. And the biggest reason why, ladies and gentlemen, is that it is expensive. It adds a unnecessary expense to your game, to your hustle. I mean, if you're looking to resell these, don't grade them. They will sell for themselves. People who collect and buy and open up their wallets to own something you may have, they already know what it is. As long as you're able to correctly attribute it, list it as such in your title, and provide some pretty decent photos. And by the way, you're going to get a first-hand look at what that low bar looks like. There are some photos that are a little out of focus or too dark. You're going to get a little photography lesson, but it'll show you what kind of like the minimum expectation of displaying your coin out there in the auction world is going to be like. Very important. No graded coins. And then of course, every single listing will have the original photos. I didn't juice any of them up or do anything special other than crop them and put them together so you have a full obverse and reverse image with every listing. So another thing I wanted to point out that is coming up tonight, actually tonight, is the very first Blue Ridge Silverhound coin auction. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions, okay? And number one, I will post the link to the auction directly if you wanted to go ahead and bookmark the auction and get ready for tonight. Okay, it starts at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we have somewhere around like 47, 48 lots, not to mention all of the buy it now listings, and people have been taking advantage of those right now with their $15 credit. I will also have that link down below in the description box and also pinned in the comments section. If you haven't signed up yet for Whatnot, which is a auction platform that caters to a lot of folks that want to do something else different than eBay, then you should go ahead and check it out. The big question I've been getting, that $15 credit, people want to use it. Okay, you can use it. And how it works is you're going to have to put your debit or credit card information in first, as you normally would, with like eBay and all that. The $15 will come right off if you spend under $15. It's going to do a $0 charge to your card because it's going to use up the credit first. So I have coins that are $3, $5. I have silver. I have a 5-pack of silver mark dimes that's flying away at $10. It's one of the cheapest rates going out there for 90% silver dimes. It's going to be a good way to add to your holdings and a good way to soak up that $15 kind of like free play by using the platform. So go ahead and check it out. If you haven't signed up, the links will be down below in the description and comments box. So hopefully I look forward to seeing a lot of you there. Let's go ahead and jump right into these listings, guys. So yeah, Sally Ride, still riding along gracefully into the sunset. 2022 Philadelphia Mint. And this one has the really nice, very strong strike through on Washington's ponytail. You can see that right here. They call this a field restricted strike through. All right, and that's where the feeder finger actually scrapes along the die, makes a little bit of contact, and then on that feeder finger is some grease. You know, much like all the other moving parts to a mint press, there's grease all over the place. So you're going to encounter not only the strike through events here, but also the feeder finger scrapes. We're just going to be scrape lines, or they're going to be parallel in nature, so they're like right next to each other. On the, I would say, the fields area, which on the die is the highest points of the die. Pretty cool. I mean, these things used to be $20-$30 at release, and they puttered along for a good little while throughout the summer. You know, you could still sell them for $15-$25 depending on the strength of that particular anomaly. This one right here, you know, the coin is a little bit circulated, but the coin nonetheless still sold for a little bit of money. $10.08 was the final sale price on this one. Coming up next, ooh, this one's kind of neat here. And, you know, before we pass judgment on what this type of error is, you need to look at the entire picture, okay? The one thing that gets thrown out there quite a bit is die adjustment strike. All right, it's kind of like a trial strike that Mint employees use to test the pressurization of each individual strike. It has to be perfect for the thickness of that planchet. So this one, ladies and gentlemen, is not a die adjustment strike. Okay, die adjustment strikes are very valuable, and they're quite rare. Usually those don't circulate. 1980p Roosevelt dime. I think the one big thing, the telltale sign, just kind of letting everybody know that this is not a die adjustment strike, is that it has full rims. On a die adjustment strikes, you won't have any rims at all, or very weak rims. This one, very well struck. The upset nature of those rims are very strong. So in reality, this one is just really a really major extreme strike through. Probably a pretty healthy amount of grease, I would say, is what we're looking at here. And, you know, good old Roosevelt, God bless his heart, he's balding in this one. All right, so yeah, there's no hair detail, and obviously on the reverse, that's the most kind of radical aspect of this whole coin. But if you came across something like this, obviously you don't spend it, all right, because it's worth a little bit more than just face value. This one happened to sell for $14.49 with 5 bids. All right, we got more dimes. We actually have a few dimes to talk about in this video. Now, this undated specimen here, we don't know what the date is, struck off center. I would say probably 55%, somewhere around there. But you'll notice on this example that the edge here on the off center struck of the coin is a little bit irregular. You have a very flat edge right here. All right, and then it's continues its roundness here on this right side. And the reason why it's flat right there is that there was another coin butt up against it. So you have two off-center struck coins that were in the striking chamber during this process. So when you have two coins that are struck off-center and they're like touching, they call that a change strike. All right, and it could be one or two coins. It could be 3 coins. I've seen a few 3-coin change strikes that look absolutely amazing. So there is another pairing to this somewhere out in the world today, or it could probably was found out early on and destroyed. So this one, right, is out there. When you see kind of like the irregular shaped edge to the off-center portion of the strike, that's how you know it's a change strike. So this one right here ended up selling for $49.95. These are commonly misdiagnosed by a lot of coin dealers. So if you find one in their case and they're just playing it off as just an off-center struck coin, yeah, you could do really well here. Oftentimes, someone will look at this and say, yeah, that's a $20 coin right there. But Change Strike is worth a lot more than that. All right, the next one that we have here is a 1983 Washington quarter. Now, this is quite a common date for off-center strikes, but the more off-center they are, even this date is not immune to a lot of desirability, all right, which is what we have here in this case. What else is there to say? It's a good-looking coin. Obviously, it's going to go into a date set. There are people that collected this particular era by date, so maybe they want something that's a little bit better than their current 1983 coin. The only caveat, the only kind of like minor detail that might hinder this one is the fact that it has no readable mint mark. We don't know if it's a Philly or a Denver. Someone might just actually be okay owning this one, even not knowing where the mintage is, or the mint facility is. So with things being said, this one did sell for $49, which is a very healthy amount of money for this type of coin. And if you do come across one of these at a coin shop or show, if the price is right, I would probably pick it up, because any 1980s era of this magnitude is quite nice and is always going to be desirable. Well, okay, now we're back to some of the more ultra-modern stuff. 2022 Wilma Mankiller. Again, I love talking about this coin because it was kind of a big deal last year. It is effectively the most valuable error coin of 2022. And even going into this year, it's looking like it's still that way. So the prices did drop. You're probably hard-pressed to find one of these that's going to get close to that $1,000 threshold. I know I keep talking about that, and we've had a few of them that have hit that mark, but it's looking like it's not going to get there anytime soon unless a super high-graded specimen of this particular error ends up on the marketplace. But this one right here, this is the error you're going to look for with the double-sided retain cuts. The obverse will have it right on top of Washington's head. So a piece of the die had fractured but not completely fallen out. But also on the reverse, you have a pretty nice split die in this case, with a little bit of a shift in there. So this coin, $415 with 5 bids was the final sale price. Still a massively good amount of money. So yeah, I mean, go for it. They're still out there. They might be a little bit more circulated, but if you come across it, that's like real money in your hands. It's not just 25 cents. All right, this one's pretty neat. It's simplistic, but you can almost appreciate any coin that has 3 rim clips, and this one does. They're not kind of like the craziest looking clips that you're going to find, but you have one up here by the R in Liberty. You have this one here at the 3 o'clock position. And then finally, one little very shallow guy here under the date. You do have pretty nice Blakesley effect, which is most commonly seen on the reverse here, certain flattened areas of the rims. But overall, just a pleasing looking coin here. There are people that collect these, because they're kind of like a low budget error for a lot of folks. This one sold for $17.09. All right, so we've seen this seller sell quite a few of these missing FG initial Kennedy half dollars, and you can find them on 1971 Denver's, 1982 P, and 1983 P as well. And what it really is just simply an over polishing of the die in that area. So Frank Gasparo's initials, you see where that little yellow arrow is completely worn off the map. So, they had no problem striking examples without the obverse. We've seen quite a few of these, but the higher the grade, the more that they're worth. On this example, it's worth noting that there is a pretty nice size scratch on the obverse there. Just kind of like a radius, I guess. Is that what they call it back in good old geometry? Yeah, you could see that right there. Can't really hide that one. Still, this one ended up selling for $9.22, which is equivalent to a 90% half dollar in today's market. So, just as good as silver. When you do find it, pull them out. All right, so here's our first 2023 listing. It seems to me that all of the fun is in the Bessie Coleman quarters. This is the brand new design, the first one of the year. Now, these coins have been out in circulation since pretty close to mid-January. So some folks have had their time of really dissecting the coin, really looking at all aspects of it, and there's been some pretty remarkable stuff coming from this particular coin right here. Now, this is a Philadelphia minted coin, and the big one that a lot of people are finding for that's really not an error or a variety is the Incuse machine doubling anomalies is what they call it. And that's why this thing looks like it has crazy doubled initials on the reverse, which, by the way, that part of the field is raised. Okay, it's up to the rim, and then all of the letters are incuse into that particular design. And this is one of the most strongest. People have been finding them left and right, so they're not particularly rare. These have been selling for $50-$60 for about the last like 3-4 weeks consistently. And now I think we're beginning to finally see some cracks in the armor of this one. I think the people that did want them paid for them and got them. But now people are realizing, well, you know, it is Incuse machine doubling, and there's just like way too many of these out there. Prices are beginning to settle down, as I would expect. Now, this one right here sold for $15.75 with 2 bids. The going price for these over the last 24 to 48 hours has been in that $10 to $20 range. So we've seen the prices drop quite substantially. There was like maybe 1 or 2 outliers that did hit the $50 mark, and I don't know if that's because of like really nice quality coins or what have you, but I did notice that just in the last 2 days. So don't overpay for these, because apparently they're all over the place. They're even in the whatchamacallit, the US Mint sourced rolls. So if you ordered rolls from the Mint, you could find these in there. All right, bringing it back to 2005, good old West Virginia statehood quarter. This is a very common error, and you should always flip over your state quarters anyways, because there's a number of things to look out for. But this one, very common state for cud die breaks. So there's this one here, going from the rim to the edge of the design. So that's a full-blown legit cud right there. Coin's in nice shape. This one ended up selling for $11.07 with 3 bids. And that, you know, due to the common nature of this coin, they really don't sell for anything more than like $10 to $20. What I kind of like about this one, I just noticed on the fly, are the feeder finger scrapes in the background here, behind the bridge, and the strike through right here. So it kind of looks like rain clouds and rain and all that stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool. You do come across them like that, and this is just a very clean looking example. I would not be shy to own one of these in my collection. Now, on a counterpoint, there are cuds that will just blow you away. Like this 1987, for example, is insane looking. I mean, the cud on here is long, it's large, it's swallowing up certain devices like Liberty and partial part of the motto. You have the requisite weakness on the back of the coin, which is what you want to see. So this bad boy right here, and keep in mind, cuds are kings right now in the market, sold for $147.37 with 12 bids. So quite a bit of activity on this one, and the bigger the cud, the more money that's going to be thrown your way. And here's one that a lot of people do overlook, and with good reason. Another little minor small cud. It's at actually the top of the Y in Liberty, if you could see that. I found probably 3 or 4 of these in my lifetime, and they are easy to miss. And I'm pretty sure I've spent another 3 or 4 back in my early days before I even knew better of what these were. But still, pretty cool find. $12.07 later, and then you have a sale, and that's with 3 bids. Pretty nice looking off-center 2007 Philly Roosevelt dime. I mean, you know, probably came out of a mint bag back in the day, if they did have mint bags in 2007. but also identifiable in a roll. It's not too much larger than a standard dime size. This one sold for $11.74. And again, another coin that has gone unnoticed for a long time. You could tell the coin has circulated a lot. This 1979 Washington quarter is slightly off center by a very, very small amount. But you can see that there on the right side. It's even got what looks to be a little bit of a color clash, that's what they call it. So that's on there as well, kind of like this reading that's showing there on the inside of the rim. This one right here, again, the coin looks to be like an XF condition. It's decent, good for a collection that wants it. This one sold for $35.99. And the big reason why it sold for so much, 1979, not a date that you see with any error at all. It's quite tough to find. This one, as minor as it is, still hotly pursued by a few parties. And our first lot, I believe this is our only lot, but, it's notable. It's too bad that there aren't close-ups of each of the coins. I think that would have helped tremendously. But we have a lot of 4 various denomination coins, all with some sort of error. So we have a Minnesota 2005 statehood quarter. It's been diagnosed to be a DDR number 6 through Wexler. So it probably has, it says extra rock on this one. And it looks like it's probably a Denver Mint too. It says MND right there. So that's part of the mix. And as long as they have that, you can always go to Wexler's website. Was it Variety Vista or, doubledie.com. Sorry about that. And kind of like double check, So when you do receive a coin like that you had bought as part of a lot, just double check it through the attributor's website. 1981p Jefferson Nickel double struck. The secondary strike on that one is about 95% off center. So it's not going to show a whole lot. It's one of the least spectacular double strikes that you'll come across. But that one's in there. It's a nice BU condition coin. Probably the most intriguing and best one is that 82 small date copper Lincoln cent with a cud. That is, I don't remember, now it's 3 times. So there's a little bit of a cut die break. Of course, that 95 Denver Lincoln cent, missing the copper plating. And it looks legit too, because the actual zinc strike, or that coin, has luster. All right, so it's a very nice higher grade example. Looks like it's circulated a little bit, but these aren't too rare. I would say they're probably more in the uncommon phase of rarity. I found a few of them myself, over the years. But that's what the back pictures are horrible. Very out of focus. Can't really tell too much here. But overall, the four coin set sold for $40.86 with 25 bids. You really have to make the call. If you're kind of like your game is to buy these and then resell them as singular coins, you want to try and double up your money. If it's not there, stay away from it. Here's another Rosie 2002D this time, off center by about 10%. It is what it is here in this case. $28.95 was the final sale price on this one. And I've noticed that one particular mint error is starting to kind of retreat in value these days. They're not selling for as strong money as they were, say, 6 months ago, when people were paying like $10-20 for coins like this. It's a 1943p silver wartime nickel, which exhibits some pretty good lamination peels, detached and attached, all throughout the coin on both sides. That's also equally important. And usually something like this I've seen go for $10-20 last year. This particular example, for whatever reason, ended up at $6.58 with 2 bids. But we've seen other lamination type of coins that haven't sold for as nearly much, and they are still rather spectacular. So maybe people are trying to kind of like curb, putting more money into these as they possibly can, because they are quite common, to be honest with me. Another good one here. Tougher Date, 1998, Philadelphia, minted Washington quarter. It's off center by about 50% this time around. Good looking piece, very, very high grade. Seller was asking $137.94. A best offer was accepted. Don't know what it is because the website I used to check on best offer listings wasn't working when I gathered data for this report. So, yeah, I would assume probably 80 to 100 bucks is where we're at on this. I don't typically see 80s or 90s Washington quarters that are off-center struck sell for over $100. You just don't see it that often. And when you do, it has to be really spectacular. This one's spectacular, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I don't know if it's sold for over 100. Man, we all gotta be looking at more 1960s, specifically a Denver minted coin. You gotta look for all the Denvers. Now, before I show you the close-up of what makes this one tick, it does have damage. Right behind Lincoln's head, there's some scrapes and, pretty heavy digs in the fields there. This one is a pretty notable repunch mint mark. Even the mint mark is damaged a little bit, but you could still make out the RPM here, which is FS501 in the Cherry Picker's Guide, or simply just RPM number 1. Your secondary Denver mint mark is punched west of the primary. All right, so this one is quite strong. Sold for $13.90. So even in this condition, still worth some money. Don't toss it back, just because you think it's not going to sell with the damage on there. It'll still do okay. The same seller keeps throwing up these 1995 DDO Lincolns, and they keep on selling. Just a great price point for these. Still very common. You could pick up BU rolls and find these in today's market. 95 BU rolls are still surprisingly out there. And, these things caught fire way back in the day, and they're just a coin that continues to age gracefully. And there's a lot of them out there in this condition. Very nice, brilliant, uncirculated red. In case you need some refresher, that's what the doubling looks like in both Liberty and Amato. On this one, it's FS101 for whatever that's worth. You guys know this one. $55.98, and that's what shipping out the door. So still a very strong price for these. Well, here's our other Bessie Coleman, but I think this is more of a PSA for you guys because people are finding these and the prices are kind of all over the place, but there are a vast majority of sold sales that are between $8 and $10. All right, so what we're looking at here, you probably already see it, but a pretty nice die chip right on the tip of Washington's nose there. This particular example sold for $100. Goodness, guys. Do your homework before you buy these. Don't know if the sale will stick, but $100, way too high for this one, while others are selling for $8 to $10. Just be wary. And you certainly don't want to try and overcharge a customer because that's the thing about the internet. Information's out there for people to obtain, and if they see that others are selling for $8 to $10, they'll just do a chargeback. They'll do a return, they'll get their money back, and you guys probably had already spent that money already. Don't allow yourself to have that kind of headache, and just sell it for the appropriate amount of money, and enjoy it that way. But pretty neat little error here on these coins. So the heartbreaker of the day, there's always one, has to be this one. 1994 Lincoln Memorial Cent. You can see the cud right there next to the date. It even attaches close to the to Lincoln's tip of the bust. I mean, how can you miss that one as anything else but a cud die break? Well, when you say Lincoln Penny Large die chip and it only sells for 99 cents, need I say more? Now that close-up picture is just fine. It's just mistitled, and that eventually hurt the seller. This is a coin that probably could have sold for $20 to $25, and instead you end up with $6.24. That's with shipping. You still have to ship this thing at the end of the day. So Oh boy, yeah, pretty crazy. But there are deals to be had like this. Just people falling asleep at the wheel, or maybe a errant buy it now listing that was way too cheap. Um, you do enough dedicated searching on the platform, you will come across deals like this. Quick little update. This time on a beautiful 2000 Lincoln Memorial, wide AM reverse variety on this one, of course. FS 901 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. You have a pretty nice sized gap between A&M and America. And then those FG initials are going to be a little bit different than the close AM types. So in this particular case, this one sold for 15 bucks. Again, like the laminations, these things have kind of come down and calmed in price. Excuse me. So, I don't know. Where do we go from here? We would probably see a little bit more retracement in these, possibly down to about $10 where they were at pre-pandemic, which I'm fine with. The 99s are still going to be tough. If you can find a 99 in this condition, that's going to be easily $100 to $150 coin. Here's a good old another 83 Philly. I'm telling you guys, that's how common these off-center strikes are for this particular date. But we have yet another one here. This time it's off-center by about 15% maybe. Excuse me. This one ended up selling for $78.90, which is wild to me because I don't usually see them sell for that kind of price. They're usually somewhere in the $20 to $40 range. So we have a couple back-to-back, just pretty interesting sales. That first one more interesting than this one. Now this one's cool. Man, I don't see this that often. Okay, so it's a 1970 Roosevelt dime. If you think that's spectacular, because that's not a date that comes through on the auction that much, this is a reverse of... This is the transitional reverse. You see here on top of the reverse is 69, right? That's what they call it. You see the reverse flame. It's got the two deep valleys in there. So this is a pretty nice variety. It's off center by about 45-50%. This thing is just cool. I would have bought it lickety split if I had seen it. But I think this one sold like late last night or something like that. Still, $100.95. I think the jig was up. People knew that this was both the variety and a really nice off-center error with a full readable day. If it had a mid-mark, you'd see that as well. I don't know what to say. I would have loved to be the one to find this one first. It just didn't happen that way, and it's okay. People will enjoy nice little cherry picks like this, and the coin's probably worth double that at least. Especially in this condition. We have a few retained cuts. Now, this is what it looks like on a earlier 1940s Lincoln set. This is a 40S, by the way. You can see that there on the reverse, kind of connecting the rim to the wheat stock. But you still have some design strike on the cut area, and that's why it's a retained cut and not a full-blown cut. So this one sold for $38.50. This is, by the way, a very common one for this date. And here's our other one, 1945. Not the prettiest example. It's got a little bit of surface porosity, a little bit of corrosion on there. But you can see the retained cut at the 9 o'clock position on the reverse, similar to that previous coin. And this one right here sold for $37.50. Pretty neat one. Our feature coin of the week. All of a sudden, these things are showing up. There was actually 2 of these that sold within a few hours of each other. Maybe not even that. 1970 Denver, Washington quarter, that was struck on dime thickness stock. Huh. Yeah, and not only that, you see the condition of this example? This is one that should have sold for hundreds of dollars, but someone got a real steal out of this one. You don't see mid-state versions of this error. You usually never see that. This one right here sold for $75.95, which is way too cheap for this. But you guys need to pay closer attention to your early 70s Washington quarters for things like this. There was also a 72 Denver that sold, that was struck on dime thickness stock. And then also 71Ds exist. Now, they only happen to fall under the Denver Mint's watch for whatever reason. But there was also a candy $half of the same date that was struck on quarter thickness stock, which is still going to be thinner than standard $half stock. So there's all sorts of weird stuff happening there. But a lot of it's going to be highlighted by just a really tremendous weak strike, like you see here on this one. Very cool. Very, very cool. Again, much like the 70 Roosevelt that we talked about a second ago, I wish I was around to buy this. I believe it was a buy it now listing too, so someone got a steal of a deal with this one. Look out for these. They're very valuable. There's a little bit of a side view. Yep, that's about as thick as a dime right there. A few more coins. 1943 Steely. I mean, look at this thing. It's circulated. It's not mid-state for sure. It's slightly off-center by a little bit. Now, keep in mind, this is one of those kind of one-year type coins like the bicentennial quarter that if you're able to find any sort of mint error on them, they're worth some pretty good money. It doesn't matter what it is. This is quite minor by all accounts as far as how off-center it is. Or it might even be just a slightly off-center or uncentered broad strike too. This one sold for $103.99. So put that into perspective. Minor can be major. Mr. Sullivan of Sullivan Numismatics had a few sales on board here to kind of close out the PCMR. How about this one? Somehow this coin had seen some circulation. I mean, it's apparent, right? 1970S Lincoln Memorial double struck with a fully readable second date on the off-center portion of it. Very, very cool coin. I mean, you got to hand it to Mr. Sullivan for throwing out some things that you just don't see ever. This one sold for $161.47 with 20 bids. And, from his same auctions, you also have this, he says it's a 1982 Lincoln Memorial cent. It looks like a bronze. It has some issues. It's got some corrosion and various other things on there. But it's struck through a very late stage capped die is what we have here. So you see the overall weakness. There was a coin stuck to the hammer die, and it struck a whole bunch of other coins, thereby leading to what you see here. Very neat example, $57.90 with 16 bids. So if you do come across something like this where you have a very weak offers and a strong, very nice strike on the reverse, more likely that's what you have here with this error. All right, so that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for your Wednesday. Man, pretty stacked, very nice, a lot of good stuff. Come check me out again tonight on Whatnot. I will have the link down below. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound, and had fun talking about coins, errors, and varieties with you. And yeah, go out there, get some hunting done, and let me know what you find. That's going to go ahead and do it for this one. You guys take care, happy hunting, and I'll see you next time.